What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 28 of Mr. Millennial's Revenge. I'm your host, Nick DeMaria. Thanks for tuning in. On the podcast this week, I am joined by someone I've known for quite some time and finally got him on the podcast, Mr. Mark Lyon. And anyone from New Haven who's a musician or a music fan knows Mark's name, knows his music, knows that lovable, terrific, absolutely sweet personality, and I've got him on the show for you guys to check out. We talk about so much. He's got a brand new track out, and we're going to get into that a little later. He's the guitarist for the band Fat Astronaut, amongst many other collaborations and side projects and whatnot. So check it out. I'm so excited to have you guys hear a conversation, as I say in the interview, long overdue. So really looking forward to that with you. So this is the vaccinated episode. I am officially vaccinated against COVID-19. Eat shit, COVID, as I said the second the shot went in. It is quite a feeling, I have to say. It is. It's. I don't know, man. Like I've never, luckily for me, I've never experienced something greatly traumatizing. We all have trauma, but this was like the relief I felt, the breath of fresh air, the load off my chest, if you will, after getting my second shot was monumental, a moment I will never forget. I'll know exactly where I was the moment I got my shot against COVID, because we're on a year, man. We lost legit a year, and this podcast was birthed out of that year. So a lot of the episodes talk about COVID, but how could you not? And, it just feels great. It feels great to do your part. It's the only way we're going to get rid of this nasty little bug. And I strongly encourage everybody to get it. I am someone who gets the flu shot every year. And, it's never, done any damage. And as I jokingly say, you don't even notice the microchips after they put the COVID shot in your arm. You really don't. They really kind of just, they find a nice little place in your brain and you're not even bothered. And you don't even remember when they turn on the switch and send you to go off and do things, right? Mind control? No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Look, it's going to make you feel a little woozy, tired. I know some people that had sweats and stuff. So because I had COVID, the first shot was definitely the worst one. I was just on the couch. I came home from school. I said to my wife, I'm not going anywhere tonight. I'm not doing anything. I'm staying right here. And then I was fine the next day. With the second shot, I was totally fine. And I've read that if you've had COVID, that's how it goes. If you have not had COVID, the first shot's not as bad. The second shot is the one that makes you want to stay on the couch. And that seems to be the trend. The worst part is your arm is sore for a couple days. That's it. But you know what's better than what's worse than a sore arm? Like the lung damage from COVID-19. So please, I urge you, and I know there's some people who are a little weary about getting vaccines or this vaccine in particular. I would be happy to talk to you about it. I want everybody to do their part because we got to get our lives back, man. It's almost there, So anyway, that's just my little spiel. I'm so happy that I could share it with you guys, and I could and share it with others. And please, if you're waiting in line, hang in there because it is worth it. It is worth it, and we are at the end. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So, real quick, today is April 7th, Wednesday. We have a Mind That Hang tomorrow. This episode should drop tomorrow morning, April 8th. So hopefully a lot of you guys will hear it in time to catch the next installment of the Mind That Hang concert series. I've been talking about it on previous shows, so I'm not too worried. But like I said previously, this band will be, it is called the NHVJU. We're starting to throw the V in there. NHVJU All Stars. And this is a band of our underground members, our Patreon subscribers. It's a way for us to give back to those who have been sticking by us this whole time. And because of people like them, we're able to even do this concert series. It's a band featuring Jake Falche on guitar, Anthony Pellegrini on baritone saxophone, Larry Davis on drums, and David Shevin on bass. And we will be broadcasting live from the Ellie Center of Contemporary Art on Trumbull Street in New Haven, Connecticut, tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. live on our Facebook page, facebook.com/NHVJU. And, if you want to tip the band, we'll have little links on the screen. You can go to PayPal at New Haven Jazz Underground. Or it's like New Haven Jazz Underground at gmail.com in PayPal, and you can tip the band and give a little contribution and help them out. And it's been great that we've been able to keep some musicians employed a little bit as best as we can during this time. So please tune in and make sure you're following us on Facebook, facebook.com/NHVJU, and follow us on Instagram, NHV_underground or Jazz Underground. I'm sorry, NHV_Jazz Underground. And, we post all our stuff there. And speaking of stuff, the brunch at Atelier Florian is still going strong. Join me on Sundays, 11:30 to 2:30 p.m. I'm usually there. If not, I am subbed by an extremely talented musician. Downtown New Haven, Chapel Street. Also, Black Rock Social House in Black Rock, the neighborhood in Bridgeport, every Sunday. Jazz brunch as well, 11:30 to 2:30 p.m. And you can catch a different duo, entertaining the brunchers. And that reminds me, go check out Black Rock Social House. The food's amazing. I'm going to leave it at that. Mark, you and your team are doing a great job. Keep it up. It is insane that you open a restaurant during this time, but I'm glad you did, and I want everybody to go down there and support them. And speaking of support, before I forget, we're going to start a Wednesday night jazz series. Just stay tuned, like us on social media, and you won't miss it, okay? And speaking of support, 3 Sheets should be opening their doors any day now. You need to go there. You need to order takeout. You need to support the home of the New Haven Jazz Underground, 3 Sheets on Elm Street in New Haven. And last but not least, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my good friends and podcast guests, Mark and Jen Sabo and their team at Conspiracy in Middletown, and my man Chris at Flinders Lane in Stamford, Connecticut. Just a couple of the many amazing places in this state that has jazz, that have been good to me and the underground. So please keep supporting these businesses. We're almost there, and they're all doing their best to make your dining experience safe and enjoyable while we transition to a COVID-free life. And it's, it takes everybody to do their part. So go get some drinks and noshes, And then, last but not least, Patreon. Join us as low as $2 a month. If you listen to the show, you got the gist. Go to patreon.com/NHVJU. Sign up for as low as $2 a month, and you could become a Patreon financial contributor to the New Haven Jazz Underground. We do not have any corporate overlords, and you may roll your eyes at that, but I've worked for organizations that have had financial overlords, and it sucks. It totally sucks. They think musicians like Abe Burton or Eric McPherson are not famous enough. Think of anybody who regulars the stage at Smoke or Smalls or RIP Fat Cat. If they're not on XM radio, these people don't know who these great musicians are. And so in order to get past that, we don't rely on corporate donations or, single rich people, to put it frankly. We had Ari Honig a couple years ago. That never would have happened if we had to report to somebody, because if you know, you know. That's all I'm going to say. So go to patreon.com/NHVJU and please sign up today. Thank you so much for that. Now on to the interview section. I've known Mark Lyon since 2002. We both lived in Litchfield Hall at Western Connecticut State University, and WestCon is a small school, which gives it that high school vibe. So you do see a lot of the same people, even if you don't have classes with them. I don't think I ever had a class with Mark, but I always saw Mark out and about. He was always talking to everybody. He is the sweetest guy in the world. And of course, that transfers to his work in the New Haven scene. So if you know the band Fat Astronaut, you know what I'm talking about. If you know any side project he's been involved with, you know what I'm talking about. Mark, we are so lucky to have you in the scene in New Haven, Connecticut. And I'm just going to leave it at that, okay? Because this interview is amazing. So without further ado, let's get to my interview with guitarist, songwriter, and community activist, Mr. Mark Lyon. Joining me now via Zoom is a very long-time friend, the guitarist, the composer, lover of animals and humans, Mr. Mark Lyon. How are you, man?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. I think this is our first time seeing each other post-pandemic or pre-pandemic, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's been quite a while. I used to see you out and about all the time for all like New Haven jazz underground events and stuff, but
or just anything. Like it was always it was always a regular event, a regular occurrence to just see you like walking down the street downtown or something.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's good to see you. I like the purple guitar in the background. I think that's fitting.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
I got a couple of those.
And yeah, no, thanks for being on the show, man. We talked a while back about having you on when your new track came out, and I'm glad we finally made it happen.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be on here with you. It's good to see your handsome face.
Oh, you as well. I'm just trying to get because I'm like the most organized podcaster in history. I'm just trying to get all my notes here, but I want to jump in because obviously we got to talk about how we know each other and all things New Haven and all that stuff. But I want to start. I want to start instead with this track that you put out, "Satanic Girls." Man, tell me what Tell me the process on how that came about.
So, I'm obviously not your typical R&B funk musician. I like things to have a sense of humor and to be kind of not really fit in with everything, So I was thinking, I had this thought that kind of made me giggle a little bit, where I was like, I think satanic chicks are hot, but like, I play like R&B and funk, and there's no way I could impress like a hot satanic chick with some like R&B stuff. So then I thought it'd be funny to write like a funk love song for satanic girls.
Okay.
So that was kind of the thought process to it. Then beyond that, I tried to do as much of it myself as possible, but then I was like, man, I can't sing, I can't rap, I can't play horns. So then I had, Crispy Amazing came in and did a verse on it. I wrote some lyrics and had Gabrielle from The Tell sing them. Fernanda Franco from Fate even wrote her final that last verse on it. She wrote that. Yeah. And then Keenan from Nikita and Dylan from Fat Astronaut played horns on it. So and Nick Diorico played drums on the bridge, and he did like a lot of that aux percussion throughout the song too.
Okay. Yeah. So, for anyone, that's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely a hodgepodge of New Haven and Connecticut regulars, which I love. And it was nice to see Nick. Like I want to get, we're totally going to get into like Nick Dierico and the WestCon crew. I can't wait to dive into that stuff. But to focus on the track, yeah, it's like this 4 on the floor, like, quasi disco funk tune that's got like, three different female vocalists on it. It's got like a rap like verse in there. And it's so, when I heard, first off, when I saw that you posted it, I was like, yeah, that looks like something Mark would do. But then when I listened to it, I was like, this is something Mark would do, because I heard the Mark Lyon stamp like in this, because it was like, yeah, like you do, you've been playing a lot of funk and R&B in Fat Astronaut, but there's this like kind of metal undertone, going on in there, which I love, man. It's such a great fusion of this stuff, and it had like a Zappa vibe to it, in the sense that like it's a song that seems to know exactly what it is, so there's like the tiniest bit of like, hey, we're just having fun here, so like enjoy it for, and just enjoy yourself, which is always like something I love about a song, where it's like, not everything has to be high art. Not that I'm saying it's not high art, but you know what I mean? It's like, it's not taking itself too seriously. Like this song is like, we need songs like this during the pandemic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for real. For real, because that was a big part of it. I wanted people to shake their asses and get a laugh out of it, That was like the main thing about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just along the same approach, like during the fall, Weird Al came out with a track, that was like, he auto-tuned the one of the presidential debates, right? And it's a song about like, dude, like, get it together, because we're living in the end of the world. And it was funny because it's like really not a funny song. Like the content's not funny, but the way he presents it is funny. And it was like, yes, that's exactly what I need right now. I need a Weird Al song, because shit is, this is still, Trump's still president. This is like October, and I'm like, yeah, at this point, I need Weird Al to save me, because everything is just so bleak, your song kind of has that same remedy to it. It's like, this is meant to get you to like relax a little, enjoy yourself. And man, great job. And, a lot of people are getting better at programming shit at home because out of necessity,
Yeah, for real. That's one thing that just being stuck at home has kind of taught me.
Yeah. Yeah. I've gotten significantly better at my GarageBand game this past year. And I've said on the show, but for, probably for the first time for you, I had to make the content for my students in school, so like there was no other, it was either sink or swim. So I had to like get really good at making beats and tracks and recording my vocals like quickly, because I was having to do this stuff like overnight or within a couple of days. So it's like nice to now have this skill that a lot of musicians are now getting. I feel like we're getting a little bit more self-sufficient in that way,
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's really cool to be able to just be like, hey, Nick or Fernando, like just like send it around and they just send me stuff back, It's like, it's really cool.
Did it feel like you were able to like, stay connected with everybody, since we were all locked down and we were all home? I mean, it had to be, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm in like so many group chats and stuff like
Yeah,
that, and like we're always sending all sorts of ridiculous things back and forth, Zoom parties, all that kind of stuff. Plus,
sure.
yeah, everybody's got their own little pandemic pod, like, so I got a few people that I still see, from like, we'll social distance, but we'll still see each other, things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Now that I'm almost vaccinated, I want to go to a freaking like get a drink out somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear
I'm
you.
looking forward to that.
I get my second vaccine tomorrow, actually.
Oh,
So, yeah.
sick.
And I've had COVID, and I guess like technically I'm immune now, because I guess if you've had COVID and you've gotten at least one shot, you're good. So, I mean, I'm still going to get it, but it does feel like, I kind of feel like I have this like constant middle finger up just at COVID, just like, fuck you. You couldn't get me, and you're, fuck you back. Like we're taking you out, but I hear you, man. Like the wife and I went out for our first, went to a place date in just about a year, because what's crazy is we had a date night right before lockdown because we were like, oh, it's been a while since we went out. Let's go out, and we went out to a nice place and, enjoyed ourselves and the kind of dinner where you just order an extra appetizer, you order an extra round. And what's crazy is it ended up being the last time we went out, So yeah, we started like easing into it, and it's definitely, it's something. It's definitely a great feeling.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I had COVID too. I got it
Oh yeah.
a couple months ago. I don't recommend it, but I was happy that I got it because I had such crippling anxiety all year about contracting and spreading it.
Yeah.
And luckily, like we didn't have rehearsal for like a month before I caught it. I hadn't been to a grocery store, a liquor store, anything. So I was able to contact trace really easily. Like I had, like a youth rehearsal with the kids. They all tested negative. I saw my dad a couple times. He tested negative. I saw Tim Walsh. He tested negative. So I was like, once I got like the final person that hit me up, it's like, yep, test is negative. I straight up got off my couch and just danced around the
Sure.
apartment and laid back down and coughed my brains out for an hour.
Yeah. I mean, the I totally hear you, because when you get it, you feel like a victim too. Like you know what I mean? Because no one's asking for it. And then you start feeling guilty about who you could have possibly given it to without even knowing. And I think,
Hmm.
and just the scary nature of the fact that like sometimes it just does terrible things to people's bodies and you don't know. That yeah, I was with you, man. Like I spent most of this year being terrified because a lot of the people who got it were like getting lung damage and all this stuff. And I'm like, shit, I used to smoke and I'm a trumpet player. Like, if I get it, I'm going to be dead. Like, or worse, a fate worse than death. I'm never going to be able to play again. That was like the
Right.
biggest fear I had. And when I got it, man, I got it at a family party and it was completely innocent. And it was like within my pod of people I had been seeing. And it was just like, fuck, man. And, and luckily, same thing. Luckily, I found out before I had seen my parents because my mom is compromised. So it was kind of
Mm.
like, I kept trying to focus on the fact that I was really lucky that we caught it when we did. But yeah, don't recommend.
Yeah. Well, what's really incredible is like, I've always been, this past year very much about having the mask on, keeping the distance, all that kind of stuff. And that proved to be like a very um that proved to work really well
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I saw all these people and like I figured out how I contracted it. And so I was like, okay, well, 4 days after I contracted it, before I had any symptoms, I had Tim in my car. We both had masks on, all the
Yep.
windows down.
Yep.
He was in the back seat, I was in the driver's seat, but he didn't
Smart.
catch it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
like, so the fact that like we were wearing the masks and having distance and having windows open, like it just goes to show like that works, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah. I'm totally for it, and I'm cool. And I've been saying this too, man. I'm totally cool with wearing them like next flu season. You know what I mean? Like the flu fucking sucks, dude. Like I always say, because people who haven't had it, the first thing they say is, "What's it like?" And I go, "Well, the sickest I've ever been was the first year I was a teacher. I got the flu. I got this like flu stomach bug thing at once, and it was horrendous. I really did think I was dying at one point. Uh, COVID was the second. So it's like, and that first time was totally because I got sick from kids. They're germ factories. I love working with them, but they really are. you know Constant runny noses all the time. But yeah, it's fine with me if we make this a norm or make it more acceptable. I'm totally cool with it because I get it. Like there's been one pediatric death of the flu this year, and they said it's attributed to everyone wearing masks. So let's just fucking do it. But yeah, enough lamenting. Uh, Let's see. Did we finish everything with your track? Your track is actually for a noble cause, right? Because you're donating all of the proceeds, right?
Yeah, so that's all going to the State House, which is, as you know, a fairly new and really hip venue in New
Yes.
Haven, and they have been beyond generous to Fat Astronaut. They've always been great to us,
Yeah.
even since before they officially opened. And then during the pandemic, we had no means of rehearsing in a safe or at least a low risk environment.
Hmm.
And they reached out to us and they've been letting us rehearse there for free.
Oh shit.
And so it's like I think maybe a 250 capacity venue.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a
And
medium small size video. Yeah.
and we're able, you know, there's seven of us in there, so we're able to really socially distance and get shit done and survive as a band, which
Yeah.
like I had no idea what was going to happen to Fat Astronaut, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you guys been rehearsing? I mean, were you like, okay, like we've kind of got the gist for this. Let's start meeting regularly, or how did
Yeah.
that come about?
So there was a few months at first that we did not rehearse.
Yeah.
And I wanted to figure out some way of rehearsing. And yeah, I was bugging them. I was like, guys, can we at least maybe get like a Zoom session here and there? Like, right? Like I was like a little bit of pain in the ass
Mhm.
trying to get everybody together at some capacity. Um and then eventually CT Folk reached out to us about doing this event, and the numbers, so this was the summer at this point and the numbers were low, and I was like, guys, what do you say? Like the State House said we could rehearse there, and then it's this virtual event and they're being like very generous. What do you say we do this? And everybody's like, yep. Because at that point, we had all been to the protests and
Yeah. Yeah.
everything, you
Yeah.
know? So we were out there at that point. You know, and so we've been rehearsing and it's been going really well. There's been times where we can't because somebody is exposed or whatever, but luckily there's been no transmission at the rehearsals or anything like that. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you have good people doing smart things, like it's the best you're gonna be able to be. But that's awesome to hear. I know exactly what you mean, feeling that itch, because for a while it was the same thing for me. Like I was just hunkering down, doing my thing. And then, as it got warmer and the numbers started going down, I was like, oh man, I want to play. And luckily some of the bars I work out gave me like the patio gig, and man, that went miles, dude. Like that helped me get through that middle section. You know what I mean? If you think about lockdown was the spring, then there was like the summer and then the fall, and then we got now like those like three patio gigs I played in the summer was like fueling the tank so I could get through the fall and the winter, because once it got cold, man, it was game over, you know. And I wasn't big on the Zoom performances. Like I'm just not a fan of them. We're like, there's a box for each person in the group and everyone's playing to a click track and stuff. It's I don't know. It's cool, but it's not something I want. I'm glad that like I've been able to, especially with the Mind the Hang series, like we can at least get the band in the same room. But yeah, we've had plenty of close calls where it's like the band all of a sudden sends me a text and says like, "Oh, I don't know if we can get together because we have to wait for a test result now." And it's like it is what it is. Um, yeah, I'm not surprised that the State House is being so cool to you. We were actually going to start the Elm City Big Band right before lockdown started. I think April 1st or so was going to be our first gig, and it was going to be at the State House, and we were going to use the State House was going to be our home base, and and it was just another hit. And I'm glad to see it's still there. So I really appreciate. I think everybody appreciates that you're donating the funds to this track to that venue.
yeah, yeah, they're great guys. It's a cool spot. Um, you know, if it weren't for them, holy shit. Like during
Yeah.
this pandemic, oh man. Um, but yeah.
Yeah. I love that it the thing is about the State House is it's like the one venue where you go to see like a non traditional band. Like you go there, like they always get like world music in there. And I think
Yes.
one of the last shows I saw there before everything changed was what, I don't even fucking remember the name of the group, and it's gonna kill. Now I got to go look it up. But it was like a female group from like Libya or some shit like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was. It's gonna kill me. And to be honest with you, I haven't thought about it until just now because it feels like 10 years ago. You know, but so many cool world music acts were coming through the State House, and I love that it was that was like the State House's vibe. You know, it was like you could catch like stuff you would not normally catch at another venue in town there. So I was like praying that they weren't, you know, that they didn't shutter.
Another venue that was doing that too is Cafe Nine.
Yes.
Cafe Nine, like I saw like bands from Ethiopia there and you know, all sorts of stuff. But and Maku Sound System played at Cafe Nine. That was
Yeah.
really cool. So yeah, between those two venues, and they're like right next
Yeah.
to each other
Yeah. They're
pretty
walking
much too,
distance. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And like they're just culturally, I feel like those two venues for New Haven, like they're really doing it. I love all the New Haven venues. I love, you know, Pacific Standard Tavern, Stella Blues. Like Pacific Standard Tavern's like another home away from home for us. Stella Blues always has been too. Like Fat Ash and I played there a few times,
Yeah.
but like over the years, I mean, I've played at Stella Blues. I don't even know how many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I just think we have such a cool little scene in New Haven, and I can't wait until it comes back. I know that Pacific Standards Tavern's not going to be where it was. I actually went there the last day before they had every single thing moved out. I went and met up with Adam there, and you know, like he had told me, like he called me on my birthday last year and he told me like that he was going to like not renew the lease,
Yeah.
and then eventually like after the pandemic kind of like look for something new. But still, like that was like our birthplace for Fat Astronaut, and like I have so many great memories there. Like I love Adam. And so even like when he finally announced it, I still kind of teared up a little bit, you know, like
Yeah.
that.
Where do they do they have a new location set or
I was just thinking about that. I don't know. I was
mm,
gonna like call Adam and like see what's up because at this point venues are starting to reopen,
yeah.
and with the vaccine becoming like so, you know, as of tomorrow, I guess,
Yes, yeah. 16 and up tomorrow.
16 and up. So it's like, you know, within the next like couple months, anybody who wants to get the vaccine or is able to can get it. So it's like at that point, it's like, okay, well, what else can we do at this point,
Mm,
right? Like,
yeah.
so these venues are opening up, and we're taking gigs now. So I was gonna be like, Adam, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
uh,
I'm feeling that excitement too. Like things are starting to like, you know, a lot of the bars that I had residencies at, like the owners and I have been talking, and it's like, yeah, like we're almost there. We're almost there. And it's really reassuring to see that like it's kind of like everybody's just gonna pick up where we paused. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I talk about like the 2008 recession and how it affected the music scene and how like gigs disappeared and it took years for new places to open and start having music, and there was like it was gradual, you know, and it took a few years. It seems like this time around it's almost like all at once it's coming back because everyone just had to like hunker down and pause, for lack of a better term, and now it's just like, okay, we're back, let's get back to it, you know. And that's really reassuring, and it's actually like it's definitely helped my my anxiety, I guess, because it's like, oh, these club owners do care about either me or music, or you know what I mean. It's like because they're like, yeah, like we want the band back, we want our we want everyone wants it all back, you know. And And it's been crazy too, because my brunch gig has actually not been canceled. It was canceled from March to about September. And I've been playing it almost every Sunday since the fall. And it's just like part of the reason why I want to keep doing it is because it gave me hope. It like actually kind of kept me going. It gave me a reason to keep the horn to my face, because I'll tell you, man, like around November, I was losing the edge. I was losing the drive to like keep practicing, because it was like, for what? Like there's no end in sight at this point. So it's definitely reassuring in that sense, and to see everything coming back the way it is. It's definitely, it's hard not to get excited about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. And I just got a gig offer for like every Sunday doing this reggae thing.
Hmm.
And I'm like, man, I gotta brush up on my reggae chops. I
Yeah.
gotta remember like, this like 4 hours worth of reggae material now.
Yeah, yeah. Same. I started like learning tunes again yesterday, and I was like really learning them, not kind of like faux trying to not forget them. Actually sitting down and doing it the old fashioned way, I would say. And it's like, feels good to do this again. I'm learning material, and I got like a wedding gig offer, and like another brunch gig, and like a nightly like it's just, it's so hard. Like I was saying, it's just so hard not to want to jump and just be like, yay.
Yeah,
So, um,
absolutely.
and then we're like, it's so weird, man, because you talk about New Haven the way I do. Like we have this, we seem to be cut from this same cloth, where we just love this little town that like has like such a great music scene. And I've seen you like any night of the week. I could run into you at any establishment in town. And I always loved that about you, because it would be like, oh, hey, what's up, Mark? Say hi, kiss hello, and that's it. And like it's just not out of context to run into you at any random moment, or any random venue or establishment in town. And I love that we share this like love of New Haven together in that way, especially with the music scene, because you do a lot too, putting together shows and exposing people to local musicians and music and art and all this stuff, man. And like, if you don't mind me asking, what drives you to do that? Because I want to know if if it's similar to me.
Um, I just really like, part of me is a total misanthrope. So like when I see like all like the bullshit going on in politics and stuff like that, I'm like, wow, fuck everybody. But then like when I meet these like beautiful people like you, for example, and like, like all these local artists, like for example, Fernanda recently moved to New Haven in the past couple years,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, she's so cool. I just wanted to introduce her to everybody, and like and so it's like whenever I'm very like on like two different extremes. Either I'm just like, oh my God, like, like when I hear some awful shit happening, I'm like, wow, the world is fucked.
Mm.
And then when it's like these beautiful people that I'm surrounded with that are brilliantly talented and just like humble as could be at the same time, I'm like, you are the reason that this world goes like, is, revolving around the fucking sun. And like, so like, I just love people who are, supporting and creating, and we're all supporting each other. And like, I guess that's one of my things. As a matter of fact, Saint Mercedes, Lizzie, she read my horoscope recently. Like she did this whole like in-depth thing that was down to like the minute that I was born. And she was telling me, like, I don't really know much about this stuff, but she was like, yeah, this is so you. Like, it's all about bringing people together and blah, 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 So I really just love like connecting and showing people like what great music and art and everything is going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Same. You know, it's just like there's a lot of great stuff. I had Karen Ponzio on the show many episodes ago.
I love her.
I know, who doesn't? It's like all we did was, we talked about how for such a little city, there's a lot of people and a lot of things going on. And I think because the city is on the smaller side, it's hard not to intersect with different styles and genres and different artists and musicians. And that's what, that's the beauty behind it, because all these people can interact so easily, and I love seeing that, like, people who may not be jazz musicians, but are coming to like our Tuesday night jam session at Three Sheets, or, they know that there's jazz like on this night at this place. So they come down and check it out, or vice versa. I know if I got like a night off, Fat Astronaut's playing, I'm going to go check it out at the State House, because because of that, like, interaction, everybody knows what everybody's doing. And there is this support system, which is really, really something special. And I think we'll come out stronger once we open everything back up, man. I mean, like, I can't wait to put my band on a bill with bands that don't sound like my band at all, just because we're all New Haven groups, Like, I was talking to Gil online, Falconeer, and saying, it was the same thing. He had released a track. I saw the article in the Independent, and I reached out and I was like, hey man, this is actually like really fun. I really like this track. And we were just talking and, and all this stuff. And I was like, we'll have to get our bands on a bill sometime. And he was like, absolutely. And it's from that. It's from this like neighborly love of each other and support of each other. And especially, like you were saying, when shitty things are happening outside in the world, it makes this bond stronger, and it's beautiful, man. It really is.
Yeah, man. I knew Gil. I first met Gil from the Reptilicus days. Do you remember Reptilicus?
I saw Reptilicus one time. You were in the band, right? Weren't you in the band?
No, I used to play with them a lot, though.
Okay. All right. Because I remember I went to see them. They played like a warehouse or something. It was like an abandoned warehouse, I think. And they had like girls like wrestling in oatmeal during the show.
So that's Tube Steak, though, right?
Is that no? I think that was Reptilian. No, it might have been Tube Steak. Oh shit, you're right. Maybe it was Tube Steak then. I actually I ran into friends who were not associated with like our college group at that show because of that band. And now that I think of it, I think you're right. I think it was Tube Steak. However, I did have Reptilicus's CD. They had that song about like there's good food at a funeral or something like that. Or yep. I think it was called like Fun at Funerals or something.
Yeah.
Dude, I fucking loved that song. I loved it. I used to listen to that song all the time. Yeah. Oh man, I was just talking to Mike actually too. Yeah. Okay. So you just played with them. You were in the band. I remember Russo was in the band. Yeah. Because Mike played like a Primus style lead bass kind of thing. And then Mike was the bass player. It was something like that.
Yeah. Because O'Mara would sometimes even just have the mic and just sing, or he'd play like congas.
It was like a Zappa kind of thing in that sense, where there was,
Hopefully he's not listening.
I remember hearing that he had like never listened to Zappa in his life, and I was like, that's insane. Somehow I don't believe you, but I hope this is true. All of my musical comparisons are out of admiration. Getting that out there on the record, they're completely out of admiration. But totally. Anyway, you were saying Reptilicus. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
So Gil would sit in with Reptilicus, whether it was on accordion or guitar or whatever. And then I didn't see him for years and years and years. And then this dude, Falconeer, would see me out and he'd be like, hey, I was talking to Russo, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, cool, man. And like in the back of my head, I'm like, who the fuck are you? And like, and then like, cause he looks so different. Okay. And then one day something clicked. I was like, wait a second. That's Gil.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
Oh man. I've only known him as Falconeer, so and I like kind of just I don't know how I discovered his stuff, but somehow his earliest tracks got to me like right when he started. And I just have this like kinky obsession with synthesizers. I'm not like a guy who buys synths and toys with them all day long, but I love like synth based stuff. And so when I heard his tracks, I was like, oh, I'll go see him play, you know, and him and my band played a show, I think at Three Sheets. And then he might have, to be honest with you, not to lament some more, but I saw him play at Cafe 9 like early 2020. I think maybe around like maybe like a February break or something, because I feel like it was a weekday. And that might have been one of the last shows I went to before lockdown. Was Falconeer at Cafe 9. So, but I love it, man, with the smoke machine and the goggles and stuff. That stuff's awesome. Like I have like, man, I love Miles Davis and John Coltrane and Thelonious Monk, but I love like weird sounding synth music. It's, you know, or groovy sounding synth music. It's awesome. It's good balance.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, he's great. I love that stuff. He might have been the last show I saw too. I'm pretty sure it was Falconeer and Nikita and maybe somebody else at the State House.
Mm.
And I remember thinking, because at that point, like we were almost at, stuff almost started to get canceled. And I
Yeah.
kind of felt a little bit guilty going to this show. And I was just like, yeah, there's a sort like nobody was wearing masks yet. That
Yep.
wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah.
Um, but I just remember I think it was like a Thursday night in like early March, like
Yeah.
really early March. And I was like, I remember asking this girl if she was going to it. And she's like, "Oh no, the pandemic is starting." I don't even know if they were calling it a pandemic yet. Like,
Not yet. No, I don't think so.
yeah, she was like, "Yeah, just I room with a person that's immunocompromised, so I can't go." And I'm thinking like, huh. And I went, and there wasn't many people there, but it was a great show. And then that was it. I feel like it was like March 12th or
You know, I'll
something.
tell you, man. March 12th is that date in history. That was my first canceled gig. March 12th.
Yeah.
I was set to play Atelier Florian with my quartet, and that was the first gig I had posted on social media with the word canceled across it, and like the caption was like, due to like the coronavirus, we cannot play. And there were a couple of people that held out a little bit longer. I feel like there were some shows because March 12th was a Thursday. That weekend, there were some shows that really tried to make it happen. You know, they tried to like soldier through it, but then by that Monday it was like, nope, we're done. Like there were
Yeah.
no shows that following weekend.
Yeah, because I remember we had a show. We were supposed to play a show that weekend in Massachusetts that got canceled, and then there was just no more.
Yeah. Yeah. But real quick, we both went to WestCon at the same time, man. And like, it's funny when back to like seeing you around town, sometimes it's like, that's like out of everyone in New Haven, Mark Lyon is the guy I've known the longest, which is so crazy. You know, it's kind of crazy in some ways. We roomed on the same floor at Western Connecticut, and we have a lot of mutual friends. We were part of that same crew. You were always like a total mystery to a lot of people because you had all this long hair. You know, we called you Metal Mark. I don't know if people still call you that anymore. If I hope it's not derogatory, because for me it's like that's like a sign of nostalgia. It's like, no, we knew him as Metal Mark, you know.
I am Metal Mark.
Okay, all right, just making sure because now you're like Funk Mark. So it's like, anyway, it was always funny, man. Like, I have to say that you were one of the people that I'm sure, definitely for me, but definitely I think for a lot of people, you taught the lesson not to judge a book by its cover. Because for anyone who didn't know you back then, you had like long ass hair. I think you had the chin beard. Maybe it was like super long. Maybe there was a goatee. You were in like always in like a black t-shirt, jean shorts, I believe. And you had this like metal guy vibe to you. But then I always would overhear it always, and like we were friendly, like we we knew each other and stuff, but it was what always turned my head was I'd always overhear you talk about something music related that I didn't think you would be aware of. So I can't remember. I think it was Kenny Owens, man. To be honest with you, I think this memory of mine involves Kenny Owens and Mike Tepper. And I came out of either Litchfield Hall or Newberry Hall, one of the two, and you guys were sitting outside, and you were legit talking about like Coltrane and Tower of Power at like the same time or something like it. Man, I wish I had like documented this moment more. And I remember just being like, what? Like just, it was a real quick, like, what kind of moment of like, how is this conversation? I should have stayed and listened to it, but it was just like, huh. And it just, in a very innocent way, taught me at like 19, 18 years old, like, don't judge people by the way they look, man, because people's palette of interests goes way beyond, their appearance. And that was the lesson I took from it at that age, was like, don't judge books by their cover. And the more I've learned about you, you're one of the most eclectic musicians I've ever met. So I really appreciate you giving me that like subtle lesson that you didn't even know you were giving me back then. But you really are like a jack of all trades musically. How'd you get into all different styles, man? And why didn't you study music at school? Were you just not interested in it, or
I
what?
did study music at
Yeah,
Westcon. I was a music major.
you were, but
Yeah.
not music ed or jazz, or what were you?
No, I was doing like general music.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But yeah, so I was a music major at Westcon. The first band I ever had was a funk band.
No
And it
shit.
was called, I was like 15 or 16, and it was called like our first couple gigs, we called it the Aw Shit Funk Band. And we were just some like corny ass white dudes
Yeah,
playing like really shitty funk.
right.
And like, you know, and the funny thing is, the bass player, Fat Astronaut, was the bass player of that band.
Oh, no way. That's
Right. So I've
awesome.
been playing music with that dude for 20 years, Brendan.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Okay.
like, once I met Russo, because Russo was the original bassist of Fat Astronaut before he moved to
Yeah.
Colorado.
Right. Right.
But like literally, like I've been in so many bands with like Russo or Brendan, and if one of them couldn't do the gig, the other one subbed,
Yeah.
you know? Um, but yeah, I mean, I've always loved metal. My parents were like pretty strict growing up. They're like Christians, and they were not about metal, so I couldn't really play it at first. So I was
Yeah.
more gravitated more towards like the funk and R&B as a kid. Um, and then, once like I got into college and was kind of out of their hair and out of their sight a bit,
Yeah.
then I was able to really kind of like spread my wings with the metal shit more, you know?
Gotcha.
So that was like my first time playing metal was in college.
No way.
And
Okay.
then, I ended up having a few metal bands, but like metal was never like it was never like the first thing that I got to play or like or even practice. So like I always had like a kind of a creative ear for it, but
Mm.
like playing wise, I always found myself to be much better at like funk and R&B. So like at this point, like I love metal so much, but I don't really play it anymore or
Mm.
even write any of it.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that I'll never do it again. I would love to. I want to just get some just nasty, gross death metal band at some point.
I'm sure you will. Like nothing would stop
Yeah.
you. Yeah. That's so fascinating to hear. Like I feel like we're finally like we're both, the audience won't be able to see this, but we're both having beers. I feel like we're finally having the mandate that we have needed for quite some time. I feel like I'm finding out about you questions I've had for years. So this has been fantastic. What were some of your favorite funk R&B artists, definitely in the beginning,
Well, one the blues as well. Like when I was, because my dad took me to a bunch of concerts when I was in like my early teens. So he took me, the first time was BB King,
Oh,
And my
wow.
dad and my grandpa both took me to see BB King a few times.
Wow.
And my dad also took me to see Parliament at Toads, and he's and another version of Parliament called Original P was what it was called.
Okay.
He took me to see that at Seaside Park, and that was so cool. Like I might have even enjoyed that more than the Parliament show at Toad's Place.
Wow. Wow.
And I was probably, let's see, it was in I think '99 that he took me to see Original P. So at that point I was like 15. And like they were so cool, man, because they were like the old school Parliament stuff
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
had
Right.
like five singers all do. It was almost like a doo-wop vibe, but it
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
funky, you know?
Yeah.
That was amazing. They had this dude, he was like an old dude too, and he was wearing nothing but like a completely fishnet outfit with a thong on. And it was incredible, dude.
Oh my God.
So I love that. And
But wait, you're telling me that your parents were like conservative Christian people? They're bringing you to that show, but the metal was what was upsetting them?
yeah, well, they didn't like it if it was like because I also loved like the first kind of music I loved was like was hip hop, like
Yeah.
and I'm talking, you know, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Nas, Wu-Tang Clan, Biggie Smalls. Um and they were not about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so anything that was like either they felt to be like disrespecting women or glorifying drugs um or like anything remotely blasphemous, they were not about.
Yeah. Yeah. That
But
was
you
Bone
know,
Thugs and Harmony for me. The first time my mom banged on my door and told me to turn it off was East 99 Eternal. Because
it's
I
these
bought it in like,
99.
yeah, I had bought it in like 96 when the Crossroads was a hit. And,
Yep.
you know, typical suburban white kid, you know, playing a CD in his bedroom. And that was, I'm pretty sure the first time my mom was like, oh, enough of this.
Hmm.
So I hear you.
I used to trade tapes with my bus drivers when I was a kid,
Stop.
and like, yo, like, cause they all loved hip hop. And so like we would make each other mixtapes, you know, and trade tapes all the time.
Yeah.
And I would do my best to hide them from my parents because like if they found them, they were gone.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, my dad was funny enough, my dad was a narcotics officer back then. And I'll never forget, he gave me I didn't know what it was, but it was a necklace with a giant weed leaf on it, right? And he like gave it to me. He probably thought it was hilarious, and my mom was livid. She was so mad. She's like, "Take that off." I was like, "It's a palm tree. I don't get it." I remember calling it a palm tree. See, my dad, you know, my dad, although he was a cop, he there was like this gray area with him. I'll never forget. He, not to get too off topic, but he came to one, like maybe my 5th or 6th grade class to talk about like, you know, how to stay the straight course and stuff like this. And I remember him showing like actual drugs. Like he actually showed us like cocaine and like crack and like weed. I don't think you're allowed to do that, but like I remember being like 11 and being like, oh, this is what crack cocaine looks like. Okay, you know, because my dad wouldn't read the script, you know, like he would just be like, all right, you want me to scare these kids straight? I'll do it. Here, this is what heroin does to you, kids, you know? And I remember him bringing in all this paraphernalia, and you probably can't do that. Even a dare officer probably couldn't do that, you know? That's just the kind of guy he is. But yeah, like I totally get it. Hip hop's where my parents drew the line. Definitely. I think the only time they weren't mad was when I got like a Sugar Hill Gang CD, because I had like discovered Rapper's Delight. You know, I think that was
yep.
the only one they didn't care about, because there's legit no swearing on it. They say mother sucker, I think, on that one. So seriously, it's
that's
not even,
almost like
that's not even
like
a radio edit.
bad.
That's not even a radio edit. That's like what they said, you know? So I think that was the only time they didn't. Oh, they hated when I played the Beastie Boys. I did track in 8th grade, and we would listen to License to Ill on the way to meets and shit. And so I got a copy of it. They hated, especially the song Girls, because my mom's like pretty much she was like an active feminist in the 70s. She came into my room. She was so fucking mad when she heard, she goes, "What the hell is this?" Immediately turned off. I think she took it from me, to be honest. I think I had to buy a second copy of that one.
Oh, I used to have to buy second copies all the time.
Yeah.
Or
But
be
anyway,
like-
back. I'm sorry because I got you way off track here. But you saw the original P. Guy is in a fishnet outfit with a thong, and it's funkier than shit, right? So that's where we left off. And you were telling me more about like your earliest funk isms. What got you into it?
Yeah. So like my dad was he was like a big Stevie Wonder fan, so I always loved Stevie Wonder. Um yeah, I definitely got into Prince a little later in life because my parents never listened to Prince. But then when I got into Prince, I was like, "Yo, Dad, why aren't you listening to Prince?" So I would play in Prince and be like, "Wow, that's dope."
Wow.
Like-
You know what? Okay, one more thing to interrupt. I just want to share this because I think you'll appreciate this. My dad's favorite band is Steely Dan.
Oh, word, yep.
Yeah. And I remember being like, 16, 17, 18, if anything from Asia came on the radio or he'd put it on in the car, I remember thinking like, because I was a punk kid, I immediately associated with this must suck because my dad loves it, And I get to college, and one night you'll appreciate this. Tim Walsh invited me to a screen. Him, Shane Peters, Mike O'Mara, I'm sure, probably Mark Fossarelli, probably Nick D'Erico, probably Mike Mancini. All the older boys were gonna watch like the making of Asia. It had just come out on DVD, and we got like permission to go into one of the music rooms because it had a projector. And Tim Walsh was like, "Do you want to watch it with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." And I remember thinking like, why are they watching this DVD about like this shitty band my dad likes? And the fact that they were all like super into it was so fucking weird to me. And I was just like, oh no, my dad's hipper than I thought he was. He's cooler than me. It was so weird. And then I started to appreciate Steely Dan when I got over my, teen angst about it. Anyway, go ahead. I'll stop interrupting.
So Steely Dan was also like my dad's favorite.
Yeah.
So I actually like in my record collection, I have all his old Steely Dan records, and man, Asia, what a beast of a record that
right.
is.
Yeah. Now it's like a whole other ball game with that.
And they're insane. And it's funny because anytime like I've met people that don't like Steely Dan, and they always have the exact same reason why they don't like Steely Dan, and it's that they're like too perfect. Right?
Okay.
Because
okay.
some people just want this like rawness. Like I remember like my buddy Mike Palucci, who you might know.
Yeah.
Like I had a conversation with him, and he was like, he's hipped me to so much music. It's it's insane how much music that dude's gotten me into. But like he's into like he's huge into like deep like all sorts of West African music and this and that and like really rootsy stuff. So I totally get I don't know if he listens to Steely Dan at this point, but I specifically remember him being like, no, they're just like too clean and like perfect, like they're not like raw, like. Which like totally makes sense because they're not raw, right?
Right.
But like to like me, like I don't like every Steely Dan song ever, but the stuff that I do like, it like blows my mind because it's so like incredibly written and like,
it's so well
perfectly
produced,
performed and well produced and all that stuff. And the lyrics are like bizarre as could be. But yeah, with you saying like, oh man, my dad's hipper than me, I had a moment like that with Steely Dan too, where we went to a show. We went to see Steely Dan shortly before the guitar player passed.
Yeah.
And it was at the Oakdale. And I go to the Oakdale or whatever with homies, and we always like before the encore, we're always like, all right, let's get the fuck out of here and beat traffic, So I said that to my dad. I was like, if we leave right now, we'll beat all the traffic, or else there'll be like a ton of traffic if we stay for the encore.
Yeah, right.
And he goes, well, we got beer in the car, don't we? Like, we could just like have a beer like while we wait for all the traffic to go. Like, so
There you
we
go.
stayed for the encore and then drank beer in the parking lot until there was no more traffic. It was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. That's wonderful. That's
Yeah,
that's the shit you remember the rest of your life, you know?
right. I was like,
That's
oh,
awesome.
damn, that's a good point.
No, I mean that's so cool. I equally got exposed to Prince late because my only my only exposure to him was the radio. And so like the poppiest of pop Prince tunes, like I'm trying to think like oh shit. Party Like It's 1999. Like
Yeah.
that was like that and Little Red Corvette. Those were like the only songs I really heard. And they didn't, and I don't think those are like necessarily the best examples of his like funky style. You know, even now, I'm not trying to say even now my Prince knowledge is so novice. I really need to like spend some time with his music. But like when I was a kid, you know, we're the same age. So like, you know, late 80s, early 90s, you know, when those tunes were like new on the radio, so they were played a lot, like that was my exposure. And then like I remember in middle school he was the artist formerly known as Prince, and I remember that's a weird band name, you know. And that was like really my only exposure to him. My parents didn't listen to him. I didn't have friends that listened to him. So you know, it was really missing. And it's funny, I got into Morris Day and the Time because they're in the movie Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back at the end. And I
Yep.
remember
Yep.
seeing that movie in high school. That came out like maybe sophomore year of high school. And I remember being like, holy shit, this band sounds awesome. And I think I bought Ice Cream Castle on tape like that weekend after seeing that movie. And here's a band that's like in a Prince movie that's associated with Prince. That's like as close as I got to Prince until I don't know, I was an adult. So, you know, it's just weird how like some artists come and go into your life or don't, and it's just all situational, you know. I kind of wish I had given him some of my time, but there's always time. What can I say?
Yeah, I would say I got into Prince like late high school. And like I was like, man, I don't remember what made me get into Prince, but I just remember like being like, maybe I should listen to Prince. You know, and like
Yeah.
so and then like at first I was like, this is just like fucking weird, you know, because like a lot of the 80s stuff, there's like no bass and like this and that, and it's like, but it's like still funky. Like, how is it funky with no bass? You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
like
you know, funny enough, in Miles Davis's autobiography, he talks about how Prince was like one of his main inspirations in the 80s. You know, and I'm like, see, it was like it's like kind of the same thing. It's like maybe I should be like, because I'm a fucking Miles fanatic, right? It's like maybe I should dig what Miles was digging. You know, maybe that would give me some perspective. So yeah, you know, it's like I'm thinking about that right now. It's like maybe I should finally just fucking buckle down, man.
there's this record um that is so underrated by Prince. And I remember when it came out, I think I was a senior in high school. And you know, there was no way to listen to clips of it or anything. But the album cover was just so great that I was like, I'm buying it. And it's called Rainbow Children.
Mm-hmm.
I think it came out in 2001, right? I graduated high school 2002.
Yeah, yeah, we're the same
Um,
age. Yeah,
and that record like is so it's not like anything like the old school Prince. Like it's so like it's all like really organic instruments. Like he plays like a lot of piano and Rhodes and stuff like that on it. Um Not really a lot of like synthesizers or anything. So it's more like and like it's like acoustic drums. It's John Blackwell Jr. on drums.
mm.
So it's not like, you know, like the classic like Prince like more electronic drums kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
That record blew my mind, man. Like it had the neo soul vibe to it and all sorts of other shit. And I remember I bought like when the bass player Brendan from Fat Astronaut and from my very first band, when he graduated high school, I bought him that CD for his high school graduation. And I think that that is one of the most underrated albums, like as far as any popular, like famous artist goes. I think it's one of the most underrated albums, like in history.
I am gonna cue it up the second we're done
Nice, nice.
because I there's people whose musical opinions I really hold high, and if that's what you're saying, I'm gonna check it out, man, because it must be up there. Then, if you're saying that, it's funny. Yeah, I was into like I had like an Earth, Wind and Fire tape and like a P Funk greatest hits. I had an '89 Chevy Cavalier and I had a tape player. So it was like I'd go to FYE and buy like $2 cassette tapes, and so a lot of greatest hits. And I was, the Tower of Power, back to Oakland on tape and all this shit. And when the RH Factor came out, now you'll remember this, when the RH Factor came out in like 2000, what, 2, 3, 1?
Yeah, it was like, yeah,
it was like really, it was like around the same time we're talking about. That like got that like I was already into funk from those tapes I mentioned, but when I heard the RH Factor, that's when I got like catapulted into funk, because it was like, here's like trumpet led funk. Oh, that's something I can relate to. That's something I can like really see and listen to and follow up. And it's funny, man, God bless Roy Hargrove. I got to his acoustic stuff way later than I got than anything else, because he was a funk trumpet player for me for a while because of the RH Factor. And that first record, man, that's like kind of that was one of those records that did that for me. It was like this album is like getting my attention.
yeah, yeah, man. He's I love Roy Hargrove. What a fantastic, like, for like modern trumpet. Oh my goodness. Anytime like I make a track and like I'm like, oh man, I could totally picture some like Roy Hargrove style horns on this like,
Yeah,
every
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Cause I love like, cause he blends, like he's not one of those like loud like I'm not a horn player, so I don't really know
Do
all
your
the,
best.
the
Do your best.
but like to me, like a lot of like the funk stuff is more of this like really punchy kind of horn playing.
Yeah.
Whereas when Roy does it, it's more of like a smooth style, but it's equally as funky in its own different way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I will go out. So Roy Hargrove is funky in a lot of the same ways Miles Davis is funky.
Yes, totally,
So
totally.
so it's more of like the vibe, the groove, the tone, as opposed to the chops. So, I love me a good Freddie Hubbard solo on Red Clay and Straight Life and shit, but that's like trumpet virtuoso playing, and a lot of like the Tower of Power stuff is like, or like Lou Soloff, guys like that, in Earth, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and the horn players in Earth, Wind, and Fire. This stuff is more like, it's almost showier, it's a lot of like high screeching. It's like got a big band vibe to it, because it's like the high screeching dramatic stuff. Man, Roy's playing is like smoking a cigar, man. It's about laying back, and he, I've always been pulled in two directions, because Miles and Freddie Hubbard are like my two favorite guys, and they're really different players in a lot of ways. So Roy is always like a reminder to like lay back, not all the time. You don't always have to go in the stratosphere. You don't always have to play loud. You could play it like a quiet couple of long notes, and they're groovy, man. And it's all in like the delivery. And that's what Roy was, especially, we're talking in his like funk playing. Yeah. Like I came to appreciate his like jazz standards playing later because he was the funk guy for me. And luckily, I think for a lot of musicians our age, his album Ear Food came out like in the early O's, and that was like acoustic funk. It was like because he has a couple of funk tunes, that's where Strasbourg, it's on that record. Mr. Clean's on the record. So you get these funk tunes that are played with like acoustic piano, acoustic bass, all acoustic instruments, but he's playing funk tunes. And then there's some jazz standards. So in a lot of ways, Ear Food was the bridge to get into his straight ahead jazz stuff especially for me, because I was like, Roy's a funk guy. What do you mean he plays jazz? Like almost,
Yeah, man. Yeah, like so I think the first thing I heard him on was Voodoo by D'Angelo.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And like the horns on that's like that's everything to me, man.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like that's just like I just always want everything to sound like Voodoo.
Sure. Another thing with Roy that I appreciate too is, one of his hats is like this straight ahead jazz musician. But Roy also in a way taught me that a jazz musician, a jazz trumpeter can and most certainly should interact with other musicians that aren't jazz musicians. I think the next bearer of that torch is Keon Harold.
Yeah, I love him. Yeah.
Same thing. Like he spends most of his time producing hip hop records and shit like that. You know what I mean? It's like,
I didn't even realize that.
Well, I mean, to my discredit, I can't tell you exactly, but I know he is involved in that end of things. I wish I knew more specifics, and I'm sure I'm going to look him up later. But yeah, like he's involved in other things, not just the trumpet, but the musician. That record, man, that sounds like the next version of the RH Factor in a lot of ways. It's got that like, that hip hop, funk, jazz vibe where it's like, I'm not just a jazz, because I've seen Keon play standards, man. It's like, I'm not just a jazz musician. Quote, I'm doing the bunny rabbit quotes, I'm a musician. And there's more to me than that. And man, I'm so drawn to his playing because of stuff like that. That's a great reminder for a musician to keep an open mind. Again, not judging a book by its cover. I think I got the episode title right here.
Yeah, but like, and Keon, like the cool thing about him, he's like everywhere, or at least I feel like he's everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, so I remember last year didn't happen. Year before.
Yeah, right. There is no 2020.
I went to see like Chris Dave and the Drumheads at the Blue Note.
Sure.
And out comes Keon Harold, right?
Yep.
And then right before the pandemic, I went to see the Free Nationals in Brooklyn. And boom, out comes Keon Harold. He just kind of like pops up everywhere, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's my dream. You know what I mean? It's like, I want to, you're seeing Astronaut. Oh, here comes Nick. He's going to play a tune with them. Oh, you see this band? Here comes Nick. He's going to play a tune with them. That would be my desire in life, to just be accepted by my fellow musicians, because that's really what it comes down to, right? That is an acceptance of him as an artist, and including him in on the stage with them, and again that goes to that brotherhood, sisterhood, humanhood vibe that we were talking about earlier, that like musicians need to have and should have and should strive to have with each other, that we have in New Haven. Right.
I think this conversation is making it clear to me that you and me need to collaborate on a track.
Mark, man, it would be my absolute honor to work together, seriously. And hopefully we look back when we're polishing our Grammy Awards. Hopefully we look back at this Zoom call as the moment it happened. To finish up for today, what you got? Any other gems coming out soon? Are there any more tracks? Anything with Fat Astronaut coming out? What can we look forward to?
Yeah, so Fat Astronaut already has a few songs mixed and mastered, just looking for the right way to release them. Um, and we're actually going into the studio April 11th to record more.
Nice.
Um, I've got a tune that I'm working on right now. I'm in talks with a few artists, including, I don't know if you know, do you know Finn Wiggins Henry?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so Finn and also Chesky Ramos. Do you know Chesky?
I don't.
Check out Chesky. You should get him
Okay.
on one of these podcasts.
Okay.
He's a
Yeah.
great dude.
I mean,
Great dude. And
yeah.
like
Text me. Text me.
and
How do you spell his name?
Ceschi.
Okay. Okay.
Really fantastic artist, super humble dude. Um, and a couple other artists. You know, but I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Please do.
See if you
Please
want to
do.
maybe get your Roy on.
Yeah, I would love to. I was, I think we're kind of out of time. So real quick, we were planning our second New Haven Jazz Underground Jazz Festival this time last year. Obviously, we had been raising money. Obviously, it's not happening this year. So I don't know about any kind of festival this summer, but 2022, man, I just want a New Haven festival. I want to get all the scenes together. I want to just go, okay, we're going to get a table at this, at this bar, and we're going to sit down and coordinate with all these bands and just have a fucking celebration of all the great music that's going on in this town and make it happen.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So, all right. Where could we find you on the internet? Like, where can the good folk that listen to this podcast look you up? You're on Bandcamp, right?
Yep. So there's Fat Astra. Here, let me see.
I know. I'm so bad. I'm terrible at like keeping the notes. Okay, so your Satanic Girls could be found at marklionmusic.bandcamp.com. And some of your, Mark the Astronaut tracks could be found there. And then what else? What else do we got that we could look up?
And then there's fatastro.bandcamp.com. That way people don't have to type in Fat Astronaut because it's longer. So
right.
PHATASTRO.bandcamp.com.
I like that it's on Bandcamp. I'm definitely making a push to only using Bandcamp now. I just had a record come out. I'm not putting it on anything else. I'm just going to stick it in Bandcamp for obvious reasons.
Yeah, Bandcamp is great.
Yeah.
I'm always like, whenever my friends don't put their music on Bandcamp, I'm like, why are you not putting it on Bandcamp?
Well, I'll tell you, man, and I've said this on the show a couple of times. The Bandcamp app for your phone has jumped so high in the air. It has gotten it's so much better. Because now, and I'll say it again for like the umpteenth time on the show, on the Bandcamp app, all of your music that you've bought is streamable. So, you can download the tracks onto your computer at home, but you can listen to streamable tracks on your phone. So then you have your entire collection is available to you. You can also access your wish list on your phone. So you can, if you've got an artist who's got new stuff out, you could buy it there on your phone, download it later. And again, it's accessible. And third, all the money's going to the artist. And that brings up on April 2nd, which is this Friday. Today is 3/31, is another Bandcamp Friday. Bandcamp waives all fees. So go to marklionmusic.bandcamp.com, fatastro.bandcamp.com, and buy music from these guys, because all of the proceeds go to the artist, which is fucking beautiful. You don't see Spotify doing that shit.
Hell no.
You don't see Apple doing that shit, man. They're not giving anybody anything that's due to them. So the move to Bandcamp has got to be the thing. So I'm trying not to I'm trying not to use Spotify anymore. That's hard and a whole other episode altogether. But like, I'm trying to like limit I only buy it on Apple if it's not available on Bandcamp, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, same. And like anytime my friends come out with something, I'm like, is it on Bandcamp?
Right.
And I'm like, put it on Bandcamp. I'll buy it.
Sure. Yeah, I'll fucking buy it. Right.
Right. And so what's your Bandcamp?
My Bandcamp is nickdemaria.bandcamp.com.
That's easy to remember.
It makes sense, especially if you know me. And my newest release is Indigo 7, which just came out last week. I'm really, really proud of this one, which was a pandemic. I wrote it while I was hunkered down. I've got actually 2 more albums coming out this year. So
wow.
I'm mixing. So Indigo 7 is like half electric, half acoustic, fusion-y jazz. I've got a all acoustic jazz album coming out. And then my electric band Wired, we're going to do a record hopefully in the summer. I'm finishing up the last songs for that. So be on the lookout because there was nothing to fucking do.
Right.
So,
right. Wow. So
yeah.
you've accomplished quite a bit. That's awesome.
Trying to, man. Otherwise, I would just get fat and eating Cheetos and drinking High Lifes on my couch. And I could, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that's how somebody needed to get through this trauma, I'm all for it. But for me, I needed to, keep working and stuff. So there was no excuse at that point. You know what I mean?
I feel you, man. I feel you. Well, your music's always been beautiful, and I'm looking forward to checking out Indigo 7. You said
Indigo
it's called?
7, yes.
Yeah, man. So I'm looking forward to checking that out.
I really appreciate that. And Mark, this has been a blast, man. I feel like this was a long overdue hang that we needed to have. So let's keep in touch off air, and I know I will see you soon, and I look forward to a big sloppy kiss from you. So.
Right, we'll be both vaccinated.
Exactly.
We'll make out, right?
I know. That's how we'll get people to take the vax. We'll be like, see, and then we'll just make out in front of everybody. Yeah. So
yeah.
All right, Mark Lyon, guitarist, fat astronaut, solo artist, reggae artist, all artists. Thank you so much for coming on Mr. Millennial's Revenge. I will see you soon, my friend. Be safe and take it easy, okay?
All right, you too, Nick. Love you, dude. Thanks for having me,
man. All right, take care.
All right, peace.
Bye. What an absolute teddy bear of a human being, that guy. Mark, thanks so much for being on the podcast. I really, really appreciate it. And, man, I even learned a lot. I will fully admit, people can improve and grow. And, Mark, thanks for that lesson, man, because I feel like I learned so much about a guy I've known for so long and thought I knew pretty well. So, no, that was really great, and I really appreciate your time. So get that vaccine, guys. Get it. And keep supporting the New Haven Jazz Underground at patreon.com. And, I think that's going to do it for today. We only have 2 more episodes left in this season, guys. Can you believe it? Only 2 more left. I don't want to announce the guests because I'd like them to be a surprise. I'm hoping to get a real banger for the season finale, so I'm working really, really hard with on the booking on that end. So, yeah, what else is there? Oh, if I forgot to mention up top, if you haven't checked out my new record Indigo 7, please do. It's on Bandcamp, and I'd really appreciate it. All right, I'm out. This has been Mr. Millennial's Revenge. I'm your host, Nick DeMaria. This is a production of the New Haven Jazz Underground. I'll see you at the next episode. Thanks so much. Take care.